Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, that's it. Just allow your eyelids to close. And with your eyes closed, notice your breathing starts to slow. Slower and deeper as you breathe in that deep feeling of calm, relaxation and resourcefulness. And as you exhale, just get a sense that stress and tension and worries are leaving your body in your outward breath, enabling you to go deeper and deeper relaxed. That's it. I want you to use the power of your imagination to activate a memory. A memory of a time that you felt free and adventurous. A time where what you did was linked to the choices you wanted to make. No expectations, roles, responsibilities. It was you making choices. And I want you to imagine being back in a moment at that time when you felt the most free and the most adventurous. Remember how you breathed back then. Remember how you used to smile so much back then. How you walked. The speed of your inner dialogue. Just get a sense that perhaps you can imagine a time in nature, maybe on the side of a mountain, maybe swimming in the sea, and just get a sense of how free you feel. Maybe you can see the sunrise, maybe you can feel the sun on your skin. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to get a sense that freedom requires acceptance. And it requires acceptance because you are free to do anything that is within your control, which means you're accepting that there are things you can't do. You were free to swim in the Dead Sea, but you couldn't have swum at the bottom of the Dead Sea without a scuba tank. You were free to climb a mountain, but you weren't free to fly to the top of a mountain. Therefore, accepting things as they are is an essential part of feeling free. You don't feel sad because you don't have wings. You accept you don't have wings and feel the freedom of walking. You don't feel sad that you don't have gills. You accept that you don't and enjoy swimming near the surface of the sea. And if you can get a sense that acceptance is not just useful but necessary for freedom, let me know by nodding your head. In fact, in order to feel sad, you need to focus on those things outside of your control, or to feel that something you have is already being lost. But if you were to accept that that thing as it was will never be that way again, sadness isn't possible when you reach the point of full acceptance. I want you to think of a relationship that meant a lot to you. You know that feeling of love was real. All that you invested in that relationship, your time, your emotions, your energy, you were building something. And when it first started to not be as you wanted it to be, maybe you found yourself in a state of denial. Maybe you avoided difficult conversations that needed to be had. And maybe there was a feeling of confusion that it just shouldn't be this way. Maybe there was an element of fear or anxiety based on the uncertainty. But it's just part of a process of figuring out what is actually going on. And then perhaps there was some information that you learned that led to a feeling of frustration or irritation, maybe even anger. Maybe you felt certain agreements were broken, certain promises weren't met. Maybe you felt that this isn't as it should be. Maybe you felt betrayed. Maybe you felt that someone was destroying this thing that you'd built. So therefore that anger is completely justified. I want you to get a sense that the anger didn't stay there. You may have found yourself trying to convince yourself that all is not lost, that there's still a possibility of making things work. Maybe you're having conversations with yourself, maybe you're having conversations with that person, trying to figure out a way. How do we get things back on track? How do we go back to how they were? Maybe you felt overwhelmed or helpless, that someone else had all the cards and you were just on the receiving end of their choices, their decisions. And sometimes that would have made you feel angry, and sometimes that would have made you feel sad, because the sadness came from a difficulty in finding the meaning. You found yourself telling your story to other people. And while some people were sympathetic, other people felt that anger on your behalf. And maybe the advice that you got was useful and maybe it wasn't. But that sadness is part of a process of wanting something that is no longer there. We don't feel sad when the sun sets because we know the sun will rise the following day. We don't feel sad that we can't fly because we accept that we didn't have those wings to begin with. But if you were a bird that had those wings and had those wings taken away, and you saw the elegance of flight of other birds, then sadness would be linked to the loss of something that you did had, that you valued, and wasn't there anymore. And therefore that sadness is valid and real. There's no shame in that sadness. It means you're human. That sadness means that you know how to love. That sadness means that you really did value that thing. But the sadness can only remain if you never accept the reality of a situation. And you could look at this in two different ways. That you're still in the relationship that you would want to have, or that the relationship that you did have, that's gone, and you wouldn't want it back even if it was available. Not that relationship. You might be open to a new relationship, but it would have to be new. Even if it was with the same person, it would need to be a new relationship. New ways of communicating, new standards, new agreements. And if therefore you wouldn't have that old relationship back, then it does mean that that relationship as it was is gone, and gone for good. And that's what the sadness has been for. You were mourning the loss of something that you valued, but that was just a stepping stone to enable you to accept that it's gone. And when it's gone, the sun then rises, and it's a new day. Perhaps you can imagine being on the side of a picturesque mountain, seeing the sun rise, and remind yourself, every day is a new day to make new choices, new decisions, to take life in your own hands. In the book of your life, every day is another page. To really make the most of those new pages, doesn't it make sense to end a chapter linked to that sadness, that pain, that sorrow? It was draining you anyway. And this is a new chapter entitled Freedom. Because as you accept the past is the past, and you are where you are, you're now free. Free to make choices. Free to be who you want to be. Free to be how you want to be. I want you to imagine in that last chapter of your life, you were a man in a relationship coming to an end. But that chapter's over now. Now, you are a single man, open to the idea of a new relationship. That could be a new relationship with someone new, or it could be a new relationship with the person you were with before. But either way, it's new, and right now that means you are single, you are free, and all the choices are with you. And you can make choices that are empathetic and sympathetic to other people. And you can make choices that are selfish just for you. That's what freedom is, the ability to make choices just for you. Acceptance is the springboard to move forward. And if every part of your unconscious mind accepts the relationship as it was is now dead, fully accepting that's it, nod your head, and feel that final page of that last chapter turning over. It's a new page now of a new chapter entitled Freedom and Adventure. The words that hurt before can't hurt anymore. You've accepted that relationship is over. And if someone's being mean to you, then you probably wouldn't want to be in that relationship with them again. And therefore, all of it now is just information. Information to gather to help you make choices that come with being free. Where you choose to live is your choice. Who you spend time with is your choice. Whether you think about one person or someone else is your choice. All of it is freedom. All of it is adventure, because adventure is doing things outside of your comfort zone, doing things you've never done before. And there was a time that you'd never climbed a mountain until you did. There was a time you never swam in the sea until you did. And therefore, choices to do something new are freedom. The bigger the choices and the further outside the comfort zone, the more adventurous it will feel. This is the chapter of your life where you reconnect with who you really are. Feel that spirit coming back. Each morning you will wake up like a 21-year-old man on a 3-month adventure. You make the choices. You live life on your terms. Except you're wiser now. You will have that sense of adventure and freedom as you had in your youth, but now with all that wisdom. And the power of wisdom combined with energy in youth is a formidable force. And feel that feeling of being formidable, free, adventurous, and realize this is now, and this is the chapter of your life that you're living. So why wouldn't you make the most of being free and adventurous, full of happiness and a sense of complete acceptance? Nothing can faze you now. You've already accepted it. You've written it off. Anything now that happens is just information. I want you to feel like you're taking all of these resources back into the present, into this moment, as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense you're fully integrating into this moment, but feeling free, feeling adventurous, and feeling complete acceptance. What has happened has happened. It's in the past now. Time to move on. As I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.